project management today. If I want to ask us, and I want us to be modest, we can't talk about project management without really understanding what a project is. But as you are aware, this class is not to teach you about project management. It is a class to teach you how to use software to manage projects. How to use software to manage projects. And there are several software that are used to manage projects, several software that are used to manage collaboration and working as a team in an organization. There are several software that is used for communication because all these are basic tools that you will need in effective project management. Let me, for a start, take one or two people who want to tell us in brief what a project is. Who want to tell us in brief. I believe anybody here, you should be able to speak very authoritatively in trying to explain what a project is, because that is the core fundamentals and foundation, and this is very much relevant to your essence of being here. So if you can tell us what you understand by a project, can you please raise up your hand? Then, having seen that, I will call you so that you can let us know what you understand by a project. Fergus, what's a project?
I think it's an endeavor that has a definite beginning and a definite ending.
An endeavor that has a definite beginning and a definite ending. So an attempt for you to slap your wife is a project, Fergus, by virtue of your definition, yes or no?
No, no, no. Slapping the wife, that one does not have time of starting now. It has a
I
definite
told you
time.
doesn't have time of starting.
Eh?
Okay.
You cannot measure that one, sir.
It just happened. So that one is not a project. What is it? It's an unplanned project. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes, yes. I don't plan the endeavor.
Okay.
And
Okay. Oh. All right. Eremostele, are you there? What's a project by your own definition? Tomiwa, I will call you soon. Okay, Tomiwa, please go ahead.
Okay. A project is a temporary endeavor that has a definite beginning and an ending.
Okay, that's the same thing that Fergus said. All right, from my own list here is an endeavor to achieve a specific objective through a unique set of interrelated tasks and the effective utilization of resources. A project is an endeavor to achieve a specific objective through a unique set of interrelated tasks and the effective utilization of resources. So that complements what you guys have said. So if you look at that, that's a very broad definition of what a project is. Then he said a project has these characteristics. Number one, every project has a well-defined objective. If the objective
Yes.
is not well-defined, you don't have basis for evaluation to and for measuring performance to determine whether you are fine or you have achieved what you intend to achieve or not. So the objective has to be definite. Then it has series of interdependent tasks. Some of them start they start by standing on their own, but along the line, because the objective of the project is not the task. The task are subdivided functionality, subdivided activities that we call tasks that depend on each other. And this dependency leads to the process of achieving that objective. So it is carried out through a series of independent tasks. The other thing that is also very important about characteristics of a project is that it utilizes various resources to carry out the task. in terms of time is a resource, money is a resource, material is a resource, equipment is a resource, tool is a resource. So a project utilizes various resources to carry out the task. Another thing that is very important about what a project is, it has specific time frame. An open-ended project is probably a project that does not exist. It has an specific time frame. It has specific time frame. Some project could just be a one-time project. Peradventure is a novel project, a project that has not happened before, and some could be a project that is reoccurring. Could be a project that is reoccurring, that is happening from time to time. And one of the most important aspects of a good project, and probably every project, is that it has a customer. Because the real essence of project management, the one that delivers results, is customer satisfaction. So every project has a customer. Why do we need all this? And that leads to the last characteristics I want to mention, and it's talking about every project has some degree of uncertainty. Every project has some degree of uncertainty. Every project has some degree of uncertainty. There are different types of projects. Now, let's just try to name some projects. For instance, trying to build a 5-bedroom bungalow, it's a project. Going out to barb your hair is a project, especially when you know the kind of hairstyle you want to do. That's a project. Setting out to buy ingredients that you will need to cook a soup is also a project. Now, if you look at that, everybody here can mention, okay, let me take any 2 people or 3 to just tell me one project each, no matter how simple that project
Marriage is a type of project.
Engineer Olakunle, are you there?
Marriage is a project.
Sir?
Marriage.
Marriage is a project, and there are different interrelated tasks, right from when you are seeking out the woman, when you are trying to do a survey of feet, of best feet. This one can abuse somebody. This one smiles well. This one smells well. And up to the point that you make your choice, up to the point that you begin to plan, So getting married, choosing a wife is also a project, or choosing a husband. Mayowa, give me another example. Anybody can also give me any example. Examples of types of.
You log into.
Yes.
Okay.
They evaluate your score.
Online.
They evaluate your scores. They get back to you. You send your account statement.
Okay.
Where are you?
They can give you.
From that few examples we have brought together, you will see different types of projects. Different types of projects. Understanding that having construction projects is a bit different. Okay, let me look for example. Now, if you are now talking about, that's a general project. Let's bring it out to construction now. If you are talking about construction projects, let me name like 5 or 6. Bridges, building bridges is a construction project. And when you take bridges alone, there are different types of bridges, of different length, of different height, of different capacity and strength. Building tunnels is also another type of construction project. Building dams, constructing buildings, housing, train lanes, train stations,
yes, that's my station.
refineries, airports, plants, markets, power stations, plazas, highways, museums. So all these are building projects. And building is one of the, probably the top, arguably the top project management endeavors. I think after that, you could also take software development, and there's quite a whole lot of other. But now, the emphasis is not on the hierarchy, but the emphasis is on the that are not construction based. That could just be anything. So if you look at that, you discover that there are different classes and groups of projects. Simple, structured, not structures, complex. You see different kinds of projects. There are projects that are interdisciplinary. There are projects that are interlocational. You see people in different parts of the globe on the same project playing their own interdependent role as contained in the task list of the project. So when you look at it, project management is broad, and I know some of us here might have done one or two courses or certifications related to project management. What are the constraints to a general project? There are actually about 3 or 4 constraints. One of the first constraints is scope. Scope. Apart from scope, another constraint is cost. And in construction project management, total quality management, that cost is key. So the scope is a constraint. Another constraint to project, we talk about scope, we talk about cost, we talk about schedule. The other constraint is actually customer satisfaction. And that is why the objective of the project must be clearly stated and must be in line with what the customer wants or what the customer will want. Sometimes there are different level of customers. For instance, especially in the construction project, you have the owner as the initiator. But at the end of the day, the owner might actually not be the last customer that will determine the suitability of that project. Let's give an example. All these consultants and building agents that build houses, not knowing who will stay there. At the end of the day, they could be fine as the first level customer, but by the time the person that will stay in the house comes, which is also a customer somehow, you could also see some cost. So within the definition of who a customer is at the time of starting the project and having the briefing, the project must deliver to the sound of that customer. Then what is a project management? We now say project management involves process of establishing a plan and implementing that plan to achieve the project objective. And just like I said earlier on, the ultimate benefit of implementing project management techniques is to have customers that are satisfied, For the purpose of this class, we're going to be having a project management with a software. 2 key things are involved. The first one is the understanding of project management theory. The next one is the integration of those theories using a software like Microsoft Project that we'll be using to implement our project management activities. So we must have skillful integration of project management theory, practicals, and the use of Microsoft Project as a software. So a solid understanding of those principles and harnessing it with the capacity that Microsoft Project offer is very, very key in trying to use a software to implement a bedroom duplex from scratch to finish. So that is the objective. Definitely. You know that there are different types of 5-bedroom duplexes based on design, based on concept, based on aesthetics, even the environment. So in assumptions, and that is what will differentiate my own from every other person's own. We're going to make assumption that this is coming this way because of this assumption. I'm assuming this type of land, and that is why I'm doing this type of roof. things, but the core is we want to have the procedure involved in building a 5-bedroom duplex from scratch to finish very seamlessly. So in trying to implement this project, we'll list all the major tasks. Then we will now put the sub-task of each major task. Sometimes you could have 2-3 levels of sub-task, but the first thing to be done is to list all the major tasks. We already know what our objective is: build a 5-bedroom duplex from scratch to finish. What are the major tasks? From scratch means you're starting from idea generation, from conception. So everything that will be involved from conception up till when it is delivered at the project step. So you list all the major tasks, then you now start leading the sub-task. You could have major sub-tasks, then have second level sub-tasks under each of the sub-tasks. When that thinking is done and is comprehensive, that is the beginning of success or failure. The level of thought that goes into it at that level of concept, at that level of details, at that level of being explicit in trying to understand all the steps that are involved will determine the level of success of the project. And you know, success in this case will be measured in terms of quality, in terms of time, and in terms of prudence and management use of resources, because these are key critical considerations in determining the success of projects of such nature. So we will all have different things. At least there will be 1 or 2 things that is different from what each of us will do. When we are done with that, then we'll think, how do we translate this using a software? In this case, we'll be using Microsoft Project. There are 1 or 2 other good software that can be used for such implementation. Having done that, then we'll see how to translate it into using Microsoft Project, and our next class will depend solely on that. Our next class will depend solely on that. Let's quickly talk about a project life cycle, the life cycle of every project. Basically, the life cycle of every project. I'm trying to look at 2 things now, 2 types of projects. I'm trying to look at construction projects and the non-construction project. For instance, in non-construction projects, the first thing is concepts. And in construction projects, some people call it need identification, which is the same thing as concept. That is the beginning of every problem, every project, because every project is a problem that you are looking for a solution for. And just like I said earlier on, some projects are reoccurring projects. So some people have built some experiences over time because they've done something like that before. While some projects are novel, they are new projects. You've not done something like that. You're doing a whole lot of learning. Yeah, you can only go and see what others have done and learn from them. And even sometimes when you learn the technical one, you have to also come to customize it vis-a-vis the environmental realities, because the project might be taking place in 2 different environments, within different legal framework, within different beliefs, different culture, and things like that. Hope you understand. So the very first step in project life cycle is the concept. That's the concept, need identification. After that, we move to what we call design. Some other author refer to design as solution development. Computer don't do solution for you. You just use them to represent solution. The solution is done by yourself from your brain, your level of knowledge, your level of capacity, your understanding of what others have done, how wide you have read, your experience. All those things determine the solution. You even need all those experience and things like that in the first instance for you to even do any serious need identification or concept. The same place some people will pass through for 10 years and they will not see anything. Somebody will pass through that place just once and you'll be seeing several opportunities. So he has trained his mind by virtue of his exposure, by virtue of what he has read, by virtue of experiences to see opportunities. And that is why you see some countries, when some people are complaining of joblessness, some foreigners will come and be making money by their sides. So apart from design, which is solution development, when you have finished tying it together of what the solution will look like, the next thing will be implementation. The next thing will be implementation. In construction project at that level, the implementation, all the activities involved in the construction process. And the last on that phase is what we call the operations and maintenance. The last is what we call operations and maintenance. If it is not construction related, some people can call it project termination or project delivery when the objective of the project is already achieved. So this we can see as project life cycle phases or phases of project life cycle or phases of project life cycle. So a project run through all this. And you know, each task, each subtask of a project, especially a very complex project, is also a mini project on its own. But to make sure that we are not using too much often the word project, we can use task and things like that, because a simple task in a complex project is a project on its own at some other level. Hope that is clear, everybody.
Sure.
The client
And the end users.
The client are the end users.
Okay. Okay, let me just give you what I have here. There could be many, it's not cast in stone. You have the owner, which is the initiator. You have sometimes architects, and some people are architect engineers. Apart from that, you have consultant engineers. Sometimes you have other consultants. Yep. Sometimes you have a project manager that manages the entire project and relates with everybody. Sometimes you have some general contractors. Sometimes you have some subcontractors, and you have some other consultants of different fields. Is that okay? So yep. The level of how this will work on the number of these that you have will be determined by the number of projects. Will be determined by how complex that project is. Determined by how complex that project is. You know, if it's a very much complex project, specialization will be very key. You might need consultants in every specialization that is involved in making that project to work. Is that okay? So every project has participants and stakeholders, and you know stakeholders are defined by people who affect or who are affected by what happens on that project. That's just the short definition of a stakeholder. A stakeholder on any project are people who affect the project or who are affected by the project. I expect so that we can learn how to use Microsoft Project to present. These are some of the things I'm expecting us to do. We'll list all the tasks, either 2 days, either 3 days. If it is not a day project, if it is a month project, you put months. If it is hours, you can decide to work.
Am I the only one who's not hearing anything?
Can anybody hear him?
You're not the only one. You can't hear.
His network is down, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was locked out.
I think his network is down. Fingers continue.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So you can decide to make it hours. You can decide to make it. Then one thing we also, there are some details I will also teach you when we get to Microsoft Project. It's also about calendar. But for now, if you don't know much about that, whatever you know, just so after the task, you must put the time duration. Then one thing that you also do that is also very important, you must have another place where you have your resources, the resources you will need. For each task and subtask, there are various resources that are required. And each of those resources have their different units of measurement. Each of those resources have the unit of measurement. If you are using sand, if you are using cement, if you are using water, if you are using labor, it has its own different units of measurement. Another thing you will also put there is what we call dependencies. You know, there are different kind of dependencies, and those dependencies come as constraints. Is for us to see. You can see what I have. Some of those dependencies come as constraints. You can see this. It's subdivided. Some are flexible, as late as possible or as soon as possible. Some are semi-flexible, not earlier than, finish not earlier than, start not later than, finish not later than, and some are very rigid. They are not flexible at all. Must finish on, must start on are examples of that. So as many of those constraints as you think you can add it, just have it. This document I'm asking you to have, just have it for our next class. It might not be that comprehensive, but let it start as a guide, because as the class continues, you'll be seeing reasons why you need to add something, amend something, so that at the end of the day, you'll be happy with whatever project, with this project and the way you have scheduled it, because you are owning the scheduling process and the activities. You are owning the scheduling process and the activities. So we'll talk more. Then later on, you might not be able to do that now. We'll learn how to assign tasks to resources. We'll learn how to assign tasks to resources. So I believe we all have a better understanding of the kind of list of tasks and subtasks and resources that we're expected to do as far as our project is concerned, which is building a 5-bedroom duplex. Now, this is a blank Microsoft project screen. I know all of us here knows how to launch Microsoft Project. As you can see, the first thing you are seeing is task. And you now have the place where you can list all your tasks. You can see task mode here could be whether you want it to be automatic or manual. But again, you can start with manual, because if you set with automatic, by the time you put duration, get you the next date automatically. But if you are using manual, make sure the date does not overlap on each other, except there are activities that can take place concurrently. You know, some activities don't need to wait for the other before it starts. For the fact that one activity is activity 4 and another one is activity 1, if the constraint is not that it's wait for 1 to finish, that means as 1 is going, 4 also can be going concurrently. And that is why we have taken a project that we are all familiar with. So you can have where you have your task name, then the duration of the task, the date when your task will start, and the date when your task will finish. You can leave predecessor for now. When we get to class, all of us will look at it again. You know what that predecessor means? It means which task will have started or will have completed or be in progress before this one starts. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? Then towards the right, you have your Gantt chart. Gantt chart shows you everything. As you begin to type, it begins to put it in Gantt chart for you. So you begin to see the relationship those that interdepend on each other, and the time frame and things like that. And to just be a very good experience if you can take your time to actually uh, pay attention to this and give it your best shot. Apart from task, the next thing you see is resource. Please put it on resource. The next thing you see is resource. Then you can define your resource. You have to define resource. After you define your resource, then you now assign resources. You will now assign resources to each task, the resources that will be required for each task. Then you can click on project. Now, on project, you can see project information, custom field, link between projects, you calculate project baseline and things like that. And you can do visual reports, you can do charts, you can compare two different projects of similar nature and things like that. You will see status date, is today's date is put there. Then later on, we'll also look at project options. Please go to view, let's see. Now you can see what you have on view. On view, you can network diagram. Your network diagram is a pictorial representation of the relationship of different tasks, independent tasks, in order to make the whole project. So that's the network diagram. So we'll see how to do that. You can see there are calendar. I will talk to you more about calendar when we meet next. Then you can see other views. Can you click on that arrow down?
Hello, John.
On other views?
Where is the top one?
On other views, you can see task team, task sheet. Then you can see resource usage later at the other end. You can see how you have used resource sheet. So you can see which resource is about to finish, which one do you need to add more, how many resources will you need in the next one, how many of them you have. Microsoft Project allows for you to do all this. So if we all do our own part of the work, if we all do our own part of the work, we're going to have a very important time. We're going to have a very interesting time. We all need to do our own part of the work, and if you do that, we will definitely have important time. Marvelous, you are raising up your hand. Okay, I think it's fine. Good. So,
hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Ask your question.